Hi, I'm Dr. Karin Hilgersom, Truckee Meadows Community College President. Welcome to our second episode of Coffee with Doc Karin. Today, I am joined by Hieu Do, TMCC Mathematics faculty member and relatively new department chair. Welcome, Hieu.
Good morning, Dr. Hilgersom, and thank you for having me here. The chair job is new, and I have a lot to learn.
Well, you'll do great. You'll do great because you have a lot of energy. So Hieu, tell us about how this semester has been for you and your students, especially during these challenging times.
Right. First, I just want to say thank you for having me here. This new position for me is taking a lot of work, and I do have a lot of meetings, so I appreciate this little bit of downtime to have a little bit of coffee and in a sense relax a little bit. The semester is going relatively well, particularly compared to last spring where we had to switch mode right in the middle of the semester. So I would say for this spring, me in particular, and I think the department is a little bit better prepared to deal with a new delivery mode for our students. I would say I miss the interaction with my students. You know, we think, oh, math is easy. We'll just put it online. We'll just record the video. But it's not the same. It's not the same seeing my students. It's not the same interacting with my students and have back and forth discussion. So that part is, I guess, is the difficult part for me and for a lot of the faculty. And I know student is also trying to cope with this new, quote new, it's been more than half a year. But students are still coping with COVID. And I am happy, I'm glad that TMCC community as a whole has provided a lot of solution and support for both staff and students during this time.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it, that you at least are taking advantage of the supports that we do try to provide to faculty. So Hieu, when I first met you, I knew that you were going to be a very caring, a very dedicated, and creative faculty member. And I really see that now that you've been at TMCC for a few years. I remember when you first started at TMCC, your math students used different types of functions that they learned in pre-calculus, and they used those functions that they learned in pre-calculus to create an animated design. So how did you come up with that idea?
Yes, so this started, I'd say, in the summer of 17. When I came to TMCC, I was lucky enough to be on a fellowship with the American Mathematical Association of two-year colleges. For math people, we would know it as AMATIC. It's a national organization, and they have a national conference every year, and I've been to 3 conferences so far. It started in San Diego. In my cohort, we have to create a project that we then implement into our course and evaluate how it goes. And I want something that is tangible for my math students. Normally, when a student finishes a math class, they usually don't take a lot of tangible things away. So this is something that they can show their friends and their family. At the same time, I want to address common problems for pre-calculus students. So this is an additional repetition that they have to go through the process. So hopefully it clicks and it stays. Please allow me to share my screen and show you some of the work that my students have done. So this is what we see. To start this project, I had Professor Candace Garlock in the arts department to come and give a presentation to my class showing how arts and math sometimes connect to each other. And also in a lot of video games, as my students are into video games, a lot of video games uses math behind to make the graphics believable, particularly for first-person games where they have to complete quests and missions. You know, if you look at the person in 3D far over there, to make it believable, the shading has to be believable, and we tend to think that's a lot of art, but there's also a lot of math behind. Just as this one you see here, you see a pretty moving page, right? A boat in the middle of the ocean. But there's a lot of math behind, and I'll show you that in a sec. So my students are encouraged to use the functions that they learn in their graphs to create these design, and they are encouraged to add animation into their design. So we can see the lightning hitting the boat, the flag is waving, the ocean is moving, and if you see very, very carefully, you can also see the seaweed moving under the ocean. And this group in particular gives me goosebumps. When they talk to me and they want to ask me how can they make a shark jumping from the ocean onto the boat and bite a part of the boat off. They were very ambitious for a summer course of 5 weeks, and this project was done in 2 weeks. And that's amazing.
That is amazing.
And here is what goes behind that design. So I asked my student to separate their functions that they use into different groups that we learn in class: circles, quadratic, and linear, and exponential, and all that fun stuff. For example, if I look at the circle group, and each of these functions represents a piece of the design. A couple more examples I want to show here is a late drive. They say that's the moon, a late drive through the mountains with rains coming down. Another project that gives me goosebumps, really.
So Hugh, I have to interject something here.
Yes.
When I was a dean, and I was a dean for, in Spokane for a very large division, and it included math. And so consequently, I observed a great number of math faculty. I've seen a lot of math projects. I gotta say, this is the best math group project I have ever seen in my entire life. This is so cool.
Thank you, but this is my students' work.
Well, but
I would say our students are amazing, and the creativity that they can come up with is beyond my imagination, truly.
Right. Well, but for students, this really gives them an understanding of how math is applied in these very visual, creative contexts. And they probably also realize, if I do want to work for a video game company, I better learn math.
Yes. A lot of students have a problem connecting the X, Y, and Z, from the board to real life, and hopefully this gives them a glimpse of that.
Yeah.
And the last project I want to show is TMCC mascot. One group of the students decided to recreate the mascot for the project, and I think they did a pretty good job.
They did a great job. So I also heard that you were working on a mortgage project with your students, which I think is really great too, because when you think back to 2008, it wasn't just the banks that screwed up. I think a lot of individuals buying homes, they didn't know how to do the math, right? So tell us a little bit about that project.
Yes, so this is a project, the mortgage project is one in my current class. And this is the new CoRec Math 120 with support that we're running out this semester. This is during the financial math chapter of the course, and again I want to connect the classroom to real life, so I asked my student to search for two houses, one that is realistic to their current situation and one that is their dream house. I from personal experience, we all have a dream house, right?
Yeah.
when I was young, my dream house must have a pool. I
My
don't
dream
think
house still has a pool.
I, now that I'm an adult, I know that it takes a lot to keep up a pool, so that's out of the picture. But my student I asked my students to use very common real estate websites, or really any real estate website that they'd like to choose, and share that with me so I can see what they're dreaming of. And I can double check either the sale price of the house or the estimated cost of the house. And they have to input the down payment. And I also asked them to look around for interest rates. So not only searching for houses, they have to search for banks to shop for a reasonable interest rate that apply to their current realistic situation and then their dream situation. They work out the payment and make a mortgage table. And if the math works out right, after usually 30 years, the house is paid off. And it's very interesting to see the comments coming back to me. I also have a little column of questions that I have them to fill in. So I find that a lot of my students are looking to buy houses right now. And a lot of them are in a mortgage right now. And they say that this project was incredibly helpful with an additional column that I put in their table for additional payment towards the principal. And that makes a huge difference in the end, and they appreciate that.
That's great. What are they working on this term?
I just finished a project. Math 120 is full of projects, and I love it. Students get to apply what they learn to real life. So I just finished a project that I asked my student to look up national expenditures on defense and education for several countries, including the US, Australia, Singapore, Japan, and Russia. And it's harder as you go down that list. I made an instruction video. I'm telling them which website to look and which search phrase that they can use, and I leave nothing for Russia. And that turned out to be a struggle. And the purpose of this particular project, there are two. One, we're gonna come back and use this information that they provide me for our statistics chapter later. We're going to do statistical analysis on these tables. But for now, the feedback that I get from my students is that they appreciate the challenge. It was incredibly frustrating, but they get to see where their tax dollar go. They can see different priorities from countries to countries as they compare them. And they also commented on transparency of certain countries. And not that it's hard for Russia in this project in particular. It was my choice to not give them any search phrase. It would have been easier if they know Russian. I don't know Russian, but some of my Superstar students found actual government websites, Russian government websites. The Ministry of Finance, for example, is one of them. And I insist that their data should come from a .gov website.
Interesting.
Right. So it was a difficult project, but towards the end of the course, we're going to come back and do a statistical analysis on these data.
So Hieu, you've also been a valuable member of the Faculty of Color Coalition. And 2020, as you know, has been a difficult year for many reasons. And I know that the coalition has been discussing ways to bring inclusion and belonging and acceptance to the forefront of TMCC. And first of all, thank you for serving on that very important committee. Can you give us a highlight of what the coalition has been working on this semester?
Yes, of course. Immediately, the coalition collaborated with the Veterans Services for a Veterans Day event. we'll be hosting a pickup, a drive-by pickup for veterans to pick up TMCC swag, as well as suicide prevention materials. And we are helping fundraising for the Josh Buell Memorial Scholarship. Besides that, we continue to bring inclusion and acceptance by providing mentoring to TMCC students in the Student of Color Mentorship Program. We provide swag bag and pre-packaged food items in collaboration with the Wizards Warehouse for our Student of Color students to drive by and pick up at the Nandini campus. We are continuing to build community through recipe sharing and follow along cooking Zoom meeting for our December meeting. I think that's going to be fun.
I'm looking forward to that.
We collaborated with TMCC Counseling Center to review the curriculum for the Student Support Network with a specific lens of cultural sensitivity. We brainstorm about promoting counseling and mental health for students of color and working on hosting a movie night with a conversation follow-up by the TMCC counselor.
You know what? I wonder what the first movie will be.
And I want to say everybody is welcome to join the Faculty of Colors. Everybody, and I mean everybody. If you'd like to join, our next meeting is on November 10th at 2 p.m. And you can email foc@tmcc.edu.
Okay, very good. Now, if I can't make that meeting, but I want to get in on the recipes, will that be posted on the website?
Of course, I believe that set of recipes will be shared amongst the listserv.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
So, you know, my mother made lumpias and Indonesian style, and they were fantastic. And I haven't made them in a few years, but now you reminded me that I need to make them again. But when I've served them in the past, I've had people who've never had a lumpia say, this is like the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Yes,
you know,
they're delicious.
So they are. Well, and she kind of customized it. She put her own little touches on there, but yeah, really good. So my last question, what are you looking forward to in the math department or in your classes specifically in the spring term?
Mm-hmm. So this is the first time that the department try to roll out the new Correct Math 120. So this is really the first time we run it. And so far, I think it's going well. And I hope to improve the projects that I rolled out this semester in the next semester. And truly for the department, we are working with NSHE System. We are working with all of the other departments on campus to make sure that we'll have the Correct Math 126 with support in the fall. So a lot of us are working on that, and thank you everyone in the effort of making it happen for not only math but also English. It's been a lot of work. There'll still be a lot of work to be done, and I hope that it will be a success when we roll out in fall 21.
So Hugh, I really want to thank you and the math department for that incredible work. I know that the project is really a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift, but you know, and I'm just so impressed and proud of the math department and the English department for, at the end of the day, after the regents took their vote, you really leaned in and embraced the project. And I do think that our students will be the benefactors of all of that work. And it might take a couple of years to roll it out and work on some of the hiccups and trouble spots. But I'm so grateful. And I also want to say, thank you for serving as department chair during the transition to the co-requisite model. Kudos to you for your courage and your willingness to take that on. That just shows a lot about your character. So Thank you. Thank you for that. And Hugh, thank you for taking some time today to be with me for Coffee with Doc Karin. I really appreciate this so much. And in a few weeks, I'll be back with Laura Briggs, and she'll be talking about some of her really cool work as well at TMCC. And so I hope you can tune in for that. And remember, everyone, you make a difference. And I'm so glad to be working with you all at TMCC.
Thank you for having me.